welcome back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Brundi, we don't got too much news here, but we still got a couple of things to talk about. Do you have anything you feel like starting with here?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like you said, we don't got much. This is kind of a laid back episode because there's really not much going on in the league right now. So this is kind of a in between filler as you know, as of right now, we've got kind of a plan for the next 8 or so weeks. And good news for all of you, it does mean that we are sticking with the 2 episodes per week, as we kind of did all throughout the playoffs in the beginning of the offseason. So we're sticking to that format because we've got something that we're excited to do. Yeah, so there's that. But for today, again, really not much. But to start somewhere, I mean, probably the biggest news, I think, because now every team officially has a NHL head coach again, and that is that Columbus, the Blue Jackets, hired Dean Evason as their next head coach, formerly with Minnesota, and going to Columbus now.
Yeah, and have we seen Dean Evason as a head coach in the NHL yet? Has he coached
Yeah,
anywhere?
he's with Minnesota.
Okay, I was gonna say I know for sure that he's been a head coach, but he's not he hasn't been a namestay for like a decade or anything. Like a lot of the
So,
coaches are, but
yes. So to kind of give a little bit of a background of his coaching history for anyone who wants to know, from 1999 all the way through to 2004, he was a head coach in the WHL, spending time with both Kamloops and Vancouver. In 2004 to 2005, that year, he was a co-coach with the Calgary Hitmen, which is pretty interesting there. And then
nice.
from 2005 to 12, assistant coach with the Washington Capitals. From 2012 to 2018, he was a head coach with the Milwaukee Admirals, which is the AHL affiliate for Nashville. And then 2018 to 2019, 20-ish, somewhere in there, he was an assistant coach with Minnesota, which he was then promoted to head coach, and he was the head coach all the way through till about 19 games into this past season when he was let go by Minnesota. So pretty long coaching history for Dean. Also
Yeah.
worth noting, as a head coach, so going from over 10 years with Milwaukee and Minnesota, never made it past the first round of the playoffs. Missed the
Really?
playoffs twice as a head coach, and then made the playoffs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. 7 of those times losing in the first round, and then the other time, the year he was promoted to head coach midseason, they lost in the qualifying round in the bubble. So a lot of experience, but not a lot of success at all.
Yeah, that's
Well,
that's pretty
pretty
interesting
interesting.
because like that's definitely something that a lot of guys in within the NHL look at a lot. You've been around a lot, but if the playoff success isn't there, a lot of these teams, maybe it'll work out really well for a team like Columbus, but I don't think he'd be getting hired by, you know, uh, a New Jersey or something like that. So
When it's a match made in
it'll be
heaven with
interesting.
Columbus. I mean, a team that doesn't know how to win in the playoffs, and a coach that doesn't, like, it matches up so perfectly, and maybe they can make some magic happen there in Columbus, because boy, it's been rough for them. They've been in a very tough spot for quite a while now here, and you just want to see something go right for them, whether it's just making it back into the playoffs, or at least being a competitive team. Like,
Yeah,
it just seems
yeah,
like they're always at the bottom of the league no matter what, and they're not getting that first overall pick, that second overall pick. Like, they're still getting good players in the top 5, top 6, but
yeah. Getting a guy like Adam Fantilli third overall is insane value, but
yeah,
at us and like he's barely played yet. He's had a cup of coffee in the NHL, and he's only going to get way better. But at
yeah,
some point, they have to start winning, and I there's not very many teams in the NHL right now that have been consistently uh losing when they want to win. You know,
Yeah.
they're like, the Ducks sucked last year. They meant to suck. Same with the Sharks. Same with the Blackhawks. Those teams they knew they'd be there. Columbus wants to take that step, and it's almost similar to Buffalo in that they want to take that next step, but they just can't. Except at least
Yeah.
Buffalo's in that playoff conversation. At least they barely miss out on the playoffs in the last couple of years. Columbus has never been close. They're
Yeah.
they're closer to San Jose than the Red Wings or something like that,
Yeah.
which
And that's a
is a
team that,
is a problem.
a couple off seasons ago, you know, they like just backed the truck up to Goudreau and said, "Hey, here's what you're getting. Come play for us." Like they gave him everything to come there, and you're not doing that if you're like, "Oh, we're just going to be a middling team or a bottom feeder team." Like that was a move to be like, "All right, we're ready to contend." Trading Pierre-Luc Dubois. They could have just went the route of, all right, we're just going to go and get picks and prospects and go with the rebuild. No, they get Patrick Laine back in it. They get Jack Roslovic back. Like they were getting players to still keep them competitive and still keep them a good team, which I still think they won that trade as well.
Arguably, Roslovic is like one of the better performing pieces since that trade. He's an underrated
Yeah,
player.
I mean he's not with Columbus now, so like
No,
it
not
kind of
anymore.
sucks
Which
because like
which is
he's
too
from
bad because he
Columbus
was
and
there.
wanted to
He was
play
doing
there,
good.
and that's a problem with Columbus. I will say is it's one of those markets, kind of similar to some of the Canadian markets where players don't want to be there. But the fact that they've now had two players and two decent players, I would say, in Atkinson and Rosovic, who both want to play there and they want to be a part of that team. They want to stay there long term. They want to, you know, have a family there and have their family live there. And then Columbus ships them off. It's like when you're a team like that and not a good team, if you've got decent players that want to stay there, try and find a way to keep them there because there's not many other guys like lining up to be like, yeah, I want to go and be a Blue Jacket. Like that's not the reality of it.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's a massive thing with Columbus, the city. I think a lot of it is the organization.
Yeah,
They just frankly have been bad for a long time, and they're
too long.
and they've got young, like, I want to say that the outlook looks good, but they haven't shown any signs of it. They've got all this young talent, and we should be talking about them like they're going to be great in 3 years. But right now,
Yeah,
we're all sitting here going, are they just going to stunt all their good guys' growth? Are they just going to, like, are they all going to walk as soon as their ELC's done and they say, sign me to a 1-year bridge deal? Like, it
yeah,
there's not a ton to love, and it sucks because looking at who they've drafted and a lot of those guys, there should be a ton of hype around them. Like Kent Johnson and Fantilli and so many of those guys, Marchenko, like they
Anton
should have
Matejchuk on the back end, who I think is going to be a hell of a defenseman in the next couple years in the league
yeah,
here.
Werenski,
Like,
who is one of the most underrated defensemen for me in the entire NHL. Like they have a lot of good pieces. They just kind of have to put it together, and so far they haven't. I would love to see them take a step. They're one of those teams that I feel like a lot of people don't really like, despite being a bottom team. I actually kind of want to see if I can find it. What's his name? I think it's Jay Fresh on Twitter. He
yeah,
every year he puts out his polls for a bunch of different stuff around the league, and one of the ones he did recently was just which teams are the most liked in the league. And basically, you go to where he puts in the info, and it just gives you two teams, and it says, "Who do you like more?" And you click on it, and then it gives you two more, and you can just do this forever. And it's just more data. And through that, he figures out where the rankings are on which teams are the most liked. And like
hmm
Chicago, San Jose, the Ducks, all these bottoming out teams, they were all around the top 10 at least. Columbus was in the like bottom 7 teams in the league or something.
yeah,
And it was like they
yeah.
don't feel quite relevant enough to hate that much, Like Like, what's there to hate, really, right? Like, it's
Yeah,
so much.
like
It feels like it's easier to hate teams that do good, like a Vegas,
yeah.
But yeah, hopefully they turn it around. I really like a lot of the guys they got there, so
They and that's the thing, right? Is they got a lot of good young pieces, and so again, when you look at the roster right now, it's not it's decent. Like it's not a cup contender. It's probably not a playoff team. But then when you take what they have and still a lot of the pieces that they have coming up, like they also just drafted Cade Lindstrom, who's going to be a fantastic player. Like the
yeah.
pieces are aligning for Columbus, and within the next 3 to 4 years, I gotta imagine they're gonna start knocking on the door to be a contending team in the playoffs. And then once they get in, if they can keep this young core that they've drafted and built, like they could be a good team in the East for a good stretch. But again, you gotta get your guys to where they need to be. You gotta help them with their development. Like just because a guy's drafted, as high up as some of these guys doesn't mean they're a sure thing. Like you still got to go through the process of helping make them the best players that they can be.
And just I literally went on Twitter, put in Jay Fresh, and this post was the first one that showed up. But just to correct myself a little bit, San Jose is number 3 most liked team in the league by a decent little margin here. The Avalanche are the most liked team. I can see why they'd be up there. I'm surprised they're number
Yeah.
1, but Buffalo, never a threat to anybody. They're number 2. The Sharks are number 3. But Vegas is dead last. They're 32nd.
Nice. Good, as they should be.
The Blackhawks are 31, so I had that wrong, but something tells me that's not quite on ice stuff a ton.
Yeah.
The Bruins number 30, love that. But yeah, Columbus is 26th out of 32.
Wow.
Like they're 2 spots below the Maple Leafs. Like people don't really like them, and I don't really know why.
Yeah, that's a kind of a mystery to me.
I feel like a lot of people expect me to not like them because I'm a Tampa fan, but like I don't know. They swept us, but they didn't do it by like being dirty or anything, right?
Yeah.
Like they weren't dicks about it or anything. And I got to imagine, our success afterwards probably maybe if we didn't win the cups there, maybe I would look at it differently, but
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a good point. Yeah, but I mean,
yeah.
with Columbus, new head coach, hoping for good things for them, but not overly optimistic on them having any, great success for next year. But moving on, this was a weird signing because the AAV is a bit odd, and that is so there was initial reports that Daniel Sprong was signing with Vegas. Obviously, that didn't happen. As not too long ago, he ended up signing a 1-year deal with the Vancouver Canucks at $975,000. I mean, this is a steal for the Canucks.
Yeah.
To get Daniel Sprong at this amount in 2022 to 23. In 66 games, he had 21 goals, 25 assists for 46 points. And I think he was on a pretty cheap deal with Seattle. So 46 points in 66 games. That got him a 1-year, like $2 million deal with Detroit. He goes to Detroit in 76 games, 18 goals, 25 assists for 43 points. And now he finds himself signing a contract for less than $1 million. For a guy that back-to-back years has been a consistent, 20-goal guy, 45-ish points. I can't understand why this is the contract this was the best he could get.
Yeah, and I think a decent part of it is so many teams spent all their money, all their cap space very early in this offseason, but you got to imagine somebody had a little more scratch laying around for a guy like him who's put up, decent numbers. Like he's not a massive needle mover, but
yeah,
for under $1 million a year, just under, like that's that's really good value for the Canucks. And
Great
he's also
value.
been he's also been quoted saying that he's hoping that he can stay long term with the Canucks. So maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe some other teams were saying, "Hey, we got 1.3, 1.4 on the table," and maybe he said, "We have a good chance for a cup over in Vancouver," and
Yeah.
it's enough money. He's hoping that maybe he can turn this into a 6x2 contract after this or something like that. Like stay a little long term for a bit more money, but
Yeah.
uh, it seems like he's betting on himself. It really does. And he's a guy who has enough of a history that I think he can, but it is a little risky as well.
I think he
Um,
fits in very well with the Canucks and what he brings. Like I think
yeah.
he'll be a very solid player for them. Um, and he's obviously going to outperform this contract. Like he puts up
Oh, yeah.
10 to 15 points. He's already outperformed it. But then the thing is like, yeah, it's at the end of the season, then it comes down to Vancouver wants him back. But, say he put up 50 to 55 points on potentially even 60 if they decide to throw him on the wing with Pedersen. And then it comes down to, does he still want to stick around long term? Is he willing to take a bit of a discount to help the team out? Because the Canucks aren't going to have a boatload of cap space.
No.
And, like I know Besser's contract's coming up soon. Like they're not going to give Besser's money to Daniel Sprong. So
No.
if Sprong does want to stick around long term, yeah, he is going to have to take a discount in some way, whatever way they structure it to make it work where both sides can be happy with it. But for right now, I think this is a really good deal for the Canucks. I think that's a lot of value that you're getting for less than $1 million.
Yeah, and of course, barring any injury or something, and assuming he has that decent season at 15, 20 goals and over 40 points. If the Canucks don't want to keep him long term, well, he can turn around with that and probably get a decent contract somewhere else. So,
Yeah,
uh,
you would
as
hope. I
long as
mean, he
as long
did
as
it
he
the
puts up
last two
fine numbers.
years. Yeah,
Yeah. You know what? That's a good point. So, who knows where he'll end up? I would assume that other teams were either offering him other teams. Sorry, he couldn't. He didn't want to accept an offer with another team, and I think he really wanted to go to Vancouver because there's quite a few teams that could use a guy that can score like that, like on the third or maybe even fourth line on some cup contending teams. Like
hmm
there's no way that the Canucks were the only one who would answer the phone. There's no way.
yeah. No, yeah, I completely agree with you on that. Yeah, I think maybe it just comes down to Sprong wanted to go play for a contender, and he just said, you know what, money doesn't matter to me right now. What matters is I want to play meaningful hockey after the regular season. And going to Vancouver, he's going to get that opportunity, and maybe he's a playoff beast or something for all we know.
And
And he,
putting up good playoff numbers, that's a great way to get a nice contract.
oh, is it ever in the league? Yeah,
There's a lot of
you,
guys who get overpaid after they have a real good playoffs.
yeah. But moving on from Vancouver, moving down a bit south to Los Angeles, the LA Kings signed Quinton Byfield to a 5-year deal. He was an RFA, so they kind of just waited it out and finally came to terms on a deal, and it is a 5-year deal at $6.25 million AAV for his cap hit. I mean, I think this is a nice deal for both sides, honestly.
Yeah.
I think it's a good deal for Byfield and for the Kings.
Yeah, that's a nice bit of money, that's just over, what's that? That's got to be just under 30 mil overall. Like that's a good amount of
Over.
money, and just over even.
Yeah,
My
it's like
napkin math.
31, just a little bit over 31 million over the 5 years.
Yeah, and obviously they're hoping that he progresses and outperforms his contract, and then at the end of it, he'll be ready to sign. If he signs an 8-year deal after that, he'll be signed all the way through his prime. Like, how old would he be after?
I think he's 22 right now, so this would take him till he's 27.
He is 21, turning 22 in
21.
August.
Okay, so he'll be 22
for the year.
Yeah, when the season starts. Yeah, so basically kind of 27-ish in that range. when the deal's up, and then so then he could still easily cash in on an 8-year deal, and then that's when he's like really gonna get paid. This is kind of
Yeah.
just a longer bridge deal, but he's making a bit more money on this bridge deal than a lot of other guys get.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah,
and then
usually
for
they're
the
in that
Kings, this
4
is
mil range, so that's
yeah,
not bad.
yeah, and then for the Kings, I mean, you're getting Byfield on a great deal right now. You know, you kind of know you're gonna have to pay him at the end of it, but you're getting 5 years of great value for Quinton Byfield, even if he does exactly what he did last year. This is a good contract, but we're all expecting him to now, and we kind of see that with these kind of power forward guys, these big centermen, kind of almost like a Caden Lindstrom. Like it takes a bit for them to kind of develop more into the league, but then once they, kind of hit their stride and start to develop, like they're going to be very, very good players. And probably by the end of next season we could be talking about like this is a deal is a steal for the Kings. Like it's one of the best contracts in the league. So
Yeah. Yeah, I don't doubt he's gonna have a similar kind of trajectory of Matthew Tkachuk. I think he's a guy right now that everyone knows is good. And everyone knows he
yeah,
has talent to be elite and a top line guy. And I think in 1, 2, or 3 years he's gonna really break out and he's gonna be that 100-point guy. And he's gonna be one of
yeah,
those guys that can lead a franchise. And for the last few years of the contract, paying him 6.25 to be a guy like that would be pretty sweet. And it's a pretty good deal for him because also if you get that 8-year deal afterwards, that takes you to 35. Like that's perfect contract structure for the player as well. So I love
yeah,
this deal for both sides.
yeah. I think this is another one of those great deals that it works out really well for both sides, and it eventually it gives them both kind of what their needs are, what they're looking for. Um, so yeah, I love that for both sides. I guess we only really got kind of one last bit of news. This is kind of a fun one because you don't see this happen very often. But we do now know that the kind of the I don't what do you want to call them, like the illustrations, the design plans for the Calgary Flames new arena
Yeah.
were officially released, and I mean, like you sent in here, it looks fucking nice what they've got planned
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah, it looks pretty solid. It's really funny because you can tell that it looks like they got an artist to draw what they think the building will look like, according to the schematics and the blueprints and stuff. And then I'm pretty sure that all these pictures that have been going around, they took that art and shoved it in an AI generated picture because the people don't look right.
Yeah.
but but the arena looks like it's gonna be really nice. And have you heard what people are calling it?
No, I haven't.
Because I absolutely love it. So the new I want to make sure I get it right. Yeah, here it is. So the new Flames Arena is going to be named Scotia Place because of
Mhm.
course it was the Scotiabank Saddle Dome before with the old arena,
The
and
dome.
now nobody's calling it Scotia Place. Everyone online is calling it the Fireplace, and I love that.
That's actually really good.
that's that's
That's
really
actually
funny.
really good.
And the entire sides of the building, like the upper area of the building, like they all light up in flames. Like it looks like it's gonna be like an LED board or something like that. Like it looks like it's gonna be a sick arena. So
Yeah, yeah, from what we've seen so far, and yeah, it looks like it's going to be like an awesome facility for the Flames. Kind of sucks because for anyone who's kind of been longtime listeners, we're based in the Calgary area, and so you know all I know from going to many Flames games is the dome, the Saddle Dome.
yeah,
100% will go down as one of the most iconic arenas like ever, just because I mean it's a arena shaped like a
nothing. Yeah,
saddle.
nothing
Like,
looks like it.
yeah, like there's other, like obviously people be like, oh, Madison Square Garden. Lots of people still talk
Yeah,
about
of
Joe
course.
Louis Arena, but it's like when you're thinking of just like
Cow Palace
unique,
even.
like yeah, Cow Palace. When you're thinking of just like unique, raw, like just badass arenas, the Saddle Dome always comes to mind because it's so unique. It is such a unique concept, and I mean, just to be like, let's go to the Dome and watch a Flames game. Like,
It
just
it
rolls off the
really
tongue nice. But I
it
kind of
really
like
just
this
at this point,
fireplace though.
yeah, it really does just go hand in hand with like the Flames. They're playing in the Dome tonight. You know, at the Dome, like
Hmm.
just you don't ever have to say. Everyone knows what you mean when you say it around here. And I do
Exactly
want
right.
I do want to ask you, how many NHL arenas have you been to?
Have I
Just like
been to
overall.
one, two, three, four, five? I think just five.
And like which ones are those? Because I assume you've been to the have you been to the San
I've
Jose
been to the
Arena?
Dome. No, I've been to Honda in
Yeah.
Anaheim. I've been to Prudential in New Jersey, MSG,
Oh, you
uh,
went to
the
Prudential as
Rangers,
well.
and then not UBS. UBS was still in construction at the time. I actually went to a game at Nassau Coliseum. Again,
Oh, that had
also
to have been
one of the
awesome.
most iconic arenas ever. Like that arena
Yeah.
was so fucking cool. Like you could
Yeah.
sit there and it's steep. Like so everything from up top is projected all downward. We are kind of sitting in kind of the middle, like kind of right in the middle, not right by the ice, but not at the top. But you could turn around and look up top, and you could clearly see the face of the people sitting up at the very top because it only seated like 13,000 or something. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't a big barn, but it was cozy and it was loud and it was
I
it
was
was
gonna say
such a
it's
cool atmosphere
it's
there.
notoriously very loud. I know a lot of people have said like now that the Islanders don't play there anymore, you're never gonna have an NHL game that's as loud as some of the games that were there.
And that speaks volumes to it. The fact that you could have 13,000 people in there and it's louder than whatever they fit, 18 and a half, 19,000 in their new arena. Like that speaks volumes to how loud the Coliseum was. So
Yeah,
that
literally
was a
volumes.
very cool, that was a very cool arena to experience.
Yeah, I've been to the obviously the Saddle Dome. I've also been to Honda Center, and I've been to Amalie Arena in Tampa. And I don't remember too much from Honda Center. I remember it being pretty nice, but
Yeah,
um,
it was actually like, because that was the first, well, for both of us, that was the first, arena we went to for an NHL game aside from the Saddle Dome. And obviously, the Saddle Dome, as cool as it is, as much as we, suck it off and hype it up, it's outdated, it's old.
yeah,
So
I
to go
was
to Honda
shocked
and
when
be
I went
like,
to
holy
Amalie.
shit,
It
like,
is so nice
yeah,
there,
to
and
see like how upgraded things are and how easy it is, like, yeah. I mean, the Saddle Dome, it's very cool, but it is very, very outdated compared to any other arena in the
yeah,
league.
yeah. And I don't know if we've actually said it yet, but the Scotia Place Arena is supposed to be done in, I believe it is 2027. So in another 3 years, hopefully they'll
Yeah.
have it ready for opening game. Uh, but yeah, it's the Dome is a great arena, but it's definitely outdated, and it's especially in 3 more years, it'll be time for a new one. So
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Well, it got to the point where, what was it? Like a year ago, there was a chunk of concrete that fell off the roof. Like,
like, yeah, it's just old, and also the saddle shape, while very cool, is not really great to stand the test of time, having weight put on it and stuff.
yeah.
Like there's so many big bands and shows that don't come to Calgary because the Dome literally can't. Like Taylor Swift is just like, yeah, I can't put on my show there. You can't hold up my sets. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. It's,
it's
it's, it's time for a new one in
it's
Calgary.
time for a
It's
new one.
time for change. As much as I love the Dome, I fully support it for Calgary. They deserve it. And, kind of the way Calgary's going, like that 2027, 2028, it's, Calgary's kind of going to be kind of at least hopefully on the upswing. Like, I love the draft they had this year. Next year, they've got, 2 first-round picks again. Or no, do they next year? Or do they just have the one? Maybe it's the
Uh,
year after. Next
I
year, I
don't
think they
know.
just have the one. The year
Let's
after, I
check
think
on
they've got.
Puckpedia.
Yeah, I'm still
God.
trying to navigate all these fucking new sites to figure out. Like, how do I can't find it on here. Everything just shows me Jonathan Huberdeau's fat contract. Um, yeah, maybe you can find it because I got.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, they got two first rounders next year. Two first rounders in 2026, and
Whose
I
first
assume
rounders do
their
they
own
have
in
next
27.
year?
Does it show me? There's literally an area that just says two in the first round next year. Here we go. They
Oh,
don't
they have New
have their.
Jerseys. They
They
have
have
New
New
Jerseys.
Jerseys and Florida's. They don't have their own. Their own went
No,
to
so
Montreal.
because the Flames I'm pretty sure is like top 10 protected or whatever. So I'm assuming the Flames are going to finish bottom 10. So then
Yeah.
Montreal will probably get Florida's
Oh,
first.
right. That's the caveat to it. If they finish in the bottom in the top 10 in the draft, then it slides to the
Yeah,
Florida pick,
yeah,
which that looks pretty good too right now.
yeah.
So
So the Flames have, assuming they have their own first round pick, going to be a nice pick next year. They've got New Jersey's first, and then they've got Colorado's second. They've got their own second, and then following year 2026, they have their first round pick and Vegas's. And if you want to be like, oh, okay, sure, like that's cool. It's so identical to what San Jose has and what they're doing. They had two first round picks. They got Will Smith, Quinton Musty. This year they got Celebrini and Dickinson. And now next year, San Jose has their own first round pick and Vegas's. So if you're going through 3 consecutive drafts of having 2 first round picks, you're coming out of that with 6 really good prospects. Not to mention if you can hit on some of your seconds or thirds or whatever. Like,
yeah,
so
they
about
already seem like we don't know yet because it just
Mhm.
happened, right? But
Yeah.
in my summation, they had one of the best draft days in
I think
the
that
in
I
the
think a
entire
lot of
league.
people are saying they had the best draft. A
Yeah,
lot of
like
people are saying they
Zane
had the
Parekh,
number
where they
1
got
draft.
him was
Yeah.
absolutely insane. They
They
got
got
a couple
Matt
other really good.
Gridden at the end of the first round. He led the USHL in scoring, and then they got a lot of good guys later in the second and third rounds, even the fourth. Like they got some good picks, and so 2027, 2028, when this new arena is built, like that's going to be kind of when the Flames might be on the up and up and start to be a young, competitive team again. Like it's a perfect timeline for them because you don't want this new arena up right when you're in the middle of a rebuild, when you're in the middle of kind of tearing it down,
Yeah,
because you don't want to build this new arena and it's like we're maybe getting 50% capacity.
and
Although
I think
for
that's why
Calgary, I
the
don't think
owner.
that's a problem because
Yeah,
like Flames games always seem to be packed no matter what.
yeah, and I think that's why the owner is so notoriously like, we can't do a rebuild, we can't do a rebuild, even though
Hmm.
the GM and the president are clearly going, yeah, don't worry, we're not doing a rebuild, we're just trading all of our best players for draft picks.
Yeah, well, it's hard to sell
But
the idea of a new arena when you're tearing it down and you're a bad team. Like,
yeah, but you know, Calgary fans have been saying for a good while, we either got to go all in or we got to tear it down, and tear it down so that you're becoming good and being good with the new arena. Like I wouldn't doubt if they got an updated logo or a new jerseys or something in 2 or 3 years, and they're
nah,
like,
you can't
and
you
they're
can't
going,
change the logo.
we're a brand new team, and they've got a new look, they've got a new arena, they've got a whole new roster. Like, they name a new captain, like they could be an entirely different franchise in a few years. I don't think they'd
I
like change from the flaming sea. Like, I mean, like, update a little, maybe it has a black outline instead of a yellow, and make
Mhm.
it maybe 3D or something. Kind of like how the Lightning changed theirs. Like, it's still
Yeah.
more or less the same.
One with the jerseys, I will say people probably should be prepared for next offseason for a lot of teams to change their jerseys. Because obviously the switch from Adidas to Fanatics, which is now official, Fanatics was like, no original. Well, they've already scrapped the reverse retro thing. They said we're not doing that, and you know what? Fair enough. That was Adidas's thing, and it was cool. Fanatics wants to create their own thing. Fair enough. Um, but they said for their first year, they said no team can change their jerseys because they just took over at the same factory that Adidas was at. But they said, we want to, kind of just get the ball rolling. We want to put jerseys out right away. So everybody's sticking with the exact same one. But I believe it's next year, after next year's playoffs, is when teams can, if they want to change their jerseys, then that's when they can do it. And so I think that's a terrific idea for the Flames when the new arena is built and everything. Like, if you're like, hey, you know what? Because a lot of people like kind of this new, like, not new, but kind of like the throwback jerseys they're now wearing, which is the ones they wore like kind of back in the 80s. But a lot of people are kind of wanting them to, I don't know why, but a lot of people want them to go back to like those red ones with kind of like the black flaming C on it, which are kind of cool. But
I really like those.
The ones they're rocking now are just they're so much better, and they scream Calgary so much more to me.
I kind of think I agree with them. I think I prefer the black C on the red, and it just pops a little bit more. I don't know if necessarily the overall jersey is, but the very front and the logo on it, like, it really pops out. And nostalgia's always going to be there for an older jersey, no matter what timeline or what time frame it was used for.
Oh yeah.
But I wonder if they ever do like an alternate jersey, kind of like the old Penguins jersey or something, where they have the like diagonal text and it just says Calgary and the C is a flaming C or something like that.
Well, they had something like that
as one of their regular jerseys, like in the past.
It was it was like a third jersey. I'm just trying to find it here because they did have one like that.
Oh damn. Look at that. I could be a designer for an NHL team.
Oh, okay. Maybe it wasn't exactly like that, but it was kind of a bit diagonal. It started on kind of like kind of right between the second and third lower half of the jersey, and kind of went up diagonally, right to left, kind of up to like kind of right where kind of up in the chest area, and it said Calgary, and then underneath it had the flaming C, which, I mean, they look kind of cool, but when I look at it, I'm like, man, like, looking at jerseys now, it's like there's no way you could pass that shit off here. You should remember these ones here.
Oh yeah. They got
like, and again, they look
the handwritten.
They're all right, but like I think if you tried to put this out nowadays, people would be like, nah, get the fuck out of here.
I think people would be fine with it. If you tried to make it your home jersey or something, there's no way. There is absolutely no way.
But there's so many better things. Like,
you could do an alternate jersey, but like, obviously you can't get rid of Blasty. No, if you get rid of Blasty, there will be riots. There will be no new.
They've kind of handcuffed themselves when it comes to a third jersey. Like, your third jersey basically has to be Blasty, because I think that honestly might be like their best-selling jersey.
Why wouldn't it be?
Or up there,
so
like,
sick.
Yeah, the fans.
Their home
love
jerseys
it. Everyone
and their
loves
away
it,
jerseys, they're good. They're probably in that top 20 to top 10 range, like between 10 and 20, I would say, in the entire league. The Blasty jerseys are like instantly like probably a top 5 for me out of every jersey in the league.
Yeah, like, and they were a lot of people's favorites.
It just looks so good.
Like, they were.
This is rather similar to the New Jersey ones that they did a couple years ago as well. Yeah, where it's got the handwritten jersey across it, and then people start making up things where it's like hat written across a hat.
Yeah,
I get it. It was a cool idea, but they really did just write jersey on a jersey and try and sell it, and it just came off as really goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah. New arena looks like it's going to be sick. Hopefully the team can draft well going forward, just like they did this year.
Yeah. But yeah, so that kind of wraps up all of the news that we have here. Again, we are kind of keeping this one a bit shorter because, like we said, we're sticking to the 2 episodes a week format, and we've got a lot of stuff, coming up here that after this last segment we got here, we'll kind of explain a bit more of how we're doing it and what you guys can expect from us here. But Braden, so this is from TSN, and this is from since 1950, and it is the most common jersey numbers worn in the league. all time
Okay.
since 1950. I want you to try and guess the top 5 most common jersey numbers and the least common jersey numbers that have been worn.
I like it.
The least is probably pretty easy, but the most is, I'm kind of shocked by probably 4 out of the 5.
What are the? Do you know what it's based off of? Is it like games played in this jersey? Is it
No,
like
just how
points
many
scored in the jersey?
players, how many players have
How
worn
many
them?
players were on a roster with this number?
Yeah, and played in a game. Like they
Okay.
wore it during an NHL game at least once. How many
Okay.
players rocked that
Yeah.
number on the back of their sweater?
So that makes it tough because obviously, there's a lot of great players right now wearing like 91 and stuff like that. But, you know, those are the ones we know about. There's probably a lot of teams that have numbers that some fourth line grinders wear, and so it could be tough.
I'll tell you right now, 91 is ranked 66 on this list,
Wow.
worn by
It wasn't gonna
47
be
players.
it probably wouldn't have been in my top 5 guesses. It would have been like a little outside. I would not have thought that. Holy
Yeah,
crap.
66. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, we'll do the most worn first, and I gotta guess number 19.
Number 19 is not. It is tied for 14th, worn by 447 players.
Wow. Let's go with number 9.
Number 9 is 29th, worn by 306 players.
That's quite a fall, and it's not that much further down on the list. Do you Are there a lot of goalie numbers on here? Does it feel like?
No, no.
Okay,
One of these numbers I think some goalies have worn, but it's not a traditional goalie number.
right. Let's go with like 10.
Number 10 is 20th, worn by 395 players.
Jeez, jeez, what the heck? I, I can't even think. Like no, like number 2.
Number 2, 24th, worn by 354 players.
Wow, so it's like
I'll give you a hint. So it's
so it's
not
like
like
obviously not obvious.
a
Yeah,
crazy low number, but it's a relatively lower number.
like a
All 5 of
7.
them. Like they're all within 7 numbers of each other, the top
Oh
5.
wow. Oh, they're like all there.
Number 7 is 25, worn by 343.
Do you want
So
to
what you just
like
got to
just
find one, and then you can easily
yeah,
probably get
yeah.
the rest, or at least be in the range of knowing where you're looking.
Let's go 13.
13 is, I don't even know where it is on here. Tied for 47th,
Oh,
134 players. You're getting warmer though. You're slowly getting warmer to one of them.
is it 20?
Number 20 is on the list of top 5, and it is number 1, worn by
Wow.
535 players. Number 20 is the most commonly worn number in NHL history. That surprised me.
Wow.
That's why I wanted to do this, because I was like, holy shit, like
Like I guess it makes
that
sense it's
shocked
up
me.
there, but number 1? That's
To be
crazy.
number 1, yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go with 21.
21 is number 2, worn by 531 players, so 4 less than number 20.
All right. Well, it's probably not going to be all this, but we're going to keep going until it's wrong. 22.
22 is number 3 on the list, worn by
Actually,
526 players. So 6 or 5 less than 21.
23.
23 is not on the list, but
I was going to say.
it is number 6, worn by
Wow.
507 players.
Wow. Let's go up to 25.
25 is number 11, worn by 476.
26.
26 is tied for 14th, 447 players.
18. Is it down?
18 is number 4, worn by
There we go.
525 players.
I don't think
You
it's
only got
higher. I
one
think
left.
it's
You got number 5.
is it 16?
Oh, you're close. 16 is 16 on the list, worn
Is
by
it 17?
437. 17 is number 7, 504.
Oh, is it 15?
It is 15. Yeah. Worn by
Really?
516 players.
That's not
Um
that's not a super sexy jersey number to me. 15?
out of the top 21 most commonly worn jerseys, the lowest number is 6, and that is 17th on the list, and the highest is 29, and that's at 18th, worn by 424 players. So it's a lot of low numbers at the top, which I think
Which
maybe
makes
makes sense
sense.
because I think back early then, like there wasn't those super high numbers. It was like, you know, everybody kind of just wore the lower numbers. Like that was just kind of a thing.
Yeah. Underrated, like obviously everyone knows all kinds of stuff about Gretzky. Underratedly, this dude went to the NHL and said, "I'm going to be number 99." He just picked the highest number you're allowed to be. Like that's kind
Yeah,
of Chad. That's kind of awesome to
it's sick,
show up and
right?
just be like, I'm the highest." Like
Yeah.
that's pretty sick.
But so now going all the way to the back end of the list, the 5 least commonly worn.
Okay. And I've got a couple ideas in mind for this.
And I'll
But
tell you
before
this might give you a bit of a hint.
yeah,
The very bottom one on this list is ranked 101.
101.
Yeah.
What do
I don't
you
know
what
if
do you
that
mean
gives
by
you a
that?
hint. What of all the numbers worn in NHL history, this is 101, the very bottom.
Oh, it's like the the very least.
The very
Um,
least, 101.
is it 101?
No,
Is that a number that was
no,
eligible ever?
no, no,
The
no,
the
no.
the way you were saying it like it was like in
There's no
bold.
triple digits. There's no triple
Okay,
digits.
I didn't think so.
I
Okay,
think you should be able to get most of these
I
pretty
was gonna
easily,
say
though.
I've got a couple guesses in mind, but before I get to those, I'm just gonna say one gross number and see if I can guess a random like number 5 or something. And I'm gonna guess with 53.
53 is not.
It's just a not great number looking
Ooh,
on a jersey.
it is 54. Worn 83 times, more than 71, 62, 77, 61. Like
Really, it's more.
got some respect on it.
It's been worn more than 77. That one's got
Yeah,
guys like Victor Hedman and Ray Bourque wearing it. Like you'd think more
yeah.
people would be copying that.
77
Uh,
is also kind of a defenseman number. I feel like
yeah,
there's not many Fords you see ripping the
that's fair.
double digit sevens.
All right, I've got quite a few guesses here. So let's go with first. I'm gonna guess 69.
69 is tied for 98th with 3. So you got that one right. That is one of the bottom. That's the one right in the middle. Well, it's tied with one of the other ones.
Yeah, cowards. Wear it more. It's
Yeah,
funny.
right. I think the
It's
last guy to
freaking
wear it
funny.
is Andrew Desjardins with the Sharks. He
Yeah,
rocked
I'm pretty sure he
69
is.
for a season.
I think there was another guy in the league who picked it as his jersey number, but I don't think he ever. I don't think he ended up playing a game.
Yeah,
I think he
I think
was
you're
a.
right.
I think he was a healthy scratch and then back to the AHL.
Yeah, because I remember,
Um,
yeah, he got called up and people were like, "Fucking play him one game," and it didn't end up happening.
99.
99 is tied for 98th with 69. 3 players have worn it. So
Yeah,
2 guys
says
got their mitts on it before Gretzky did.
yeah, or they got their mitts on it while Gretzky was playing, and then
Yeah.
quickly
Oh,
were
you know,
like,
actually, yeah.
"Ugh, yeah, no, we're not doing this." They,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like we were saying, nobody picked the higher numbers, let alone the highest number, and then it got retired league wide. So
Yeah.
it's probably going to be up there forever, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know if this one would be, but for a similar reason, I'm going to go with 66.
66 is 97th. You got that one right. Worn by 6 players. Most recently, Josh Hosang, I
I
think was
believe
most
so.
recent. So
Yeah.
you got the bottom 2 left. You got 100 and 101. One has
Um.
been worn twice. The other one has been worn only once.
Uh. So this will be like a double guess. I want to guess either 0 or 00.
You would be correct with both. 00 is 100 worn twice, and just one big fat solid 0 is 101, only worn one time.
If that, I don't know if it's still allowed to do
You
that.
perfectly swept through the bottom 5.
Oh yeah, I guess. Look at that. I really want 53 to be on there because
I don't think
just
you
funny to be
can.
a
I
bad
don't think
number,
you
but
can rock the 00 or the 0 anymore.
that's too bad. I think a 00, especially on a goalie, I think that looks slick.
I kind of dig it. And then just to
Give me
kind
like
of
a question mark on the back of my jersey. Let's bring symbols into this.
yeah, and then kind of just go from like when you think of like the franchise, like the generational players. So, 99 was worn 3 times, 66 worn 6. The top 3. Can you guess the top 3 that are ahead of those two? Because those two are right beside each other. What are the next 3? Think generational players.
Sorry, for the most retired number?
No, just for the most worn, just still down at the bottom. Because you got the bottom 5, but the 3 closest to the bottom 5.
Oh, I see.
All
So it's
generational player numbers.
well, I already guessed number 9 earlier, so it's not
No,
not a
think higher. Think way higher.
it's not a Gordie
For all
Howe.
3.
97.
97, yeah, is 94th, worn only 10 times.
Yeah, not a ton more guys are going to be picking it either.
So there's 95 and 96. That.
There's a couple guys that have it in the league right now, but I don't think a lot of guys in history have had 98.
98 is ranked 96, worn only 7 times. So just that one in the middle, 95, worn only 8 times.
Only 8 times.
Generational.
Let's go with 87.
You would be right, 87. It's all
There
of
it
those
is.
numbers that
Yep.
have, like, aside from, I mean, obviously 69, nice. And then the 0, 00, the 5 least commonly worn are the ones worn by like those generational players, like those.
Yeah.
And they're all kind of higher
your
numbers.
You want it to be your number. Like I could, if I ever pick the number 87, people will go, "Hey, are you a big Crosby fan?" They're not gonna, unless they think that I'm born in that year. They're going to assume that I'm a Crosby guy because it can't ever really be yours when a guy of that level has worn it. Like it's
exactly right.
Yeah. And I think a lot of those also benefit from being those higher numbers that for a long time, because obviously you said it was since 1950. Guys didn't really wear them.
No guy would even think about
more recently.
Yeah, no guy would ever think about going to management back in the 60s and be like, "Hey, man, can I just fucking rock 98 just for fun?" They'd be like, "Get out." They'd be like, "Go, you're done. Pack your bags. You're going to the Kansas City Scouts for future considerations." And then that's when you know your career's over.
I'm just Googling quickly to make sure I get this story right.
100% accurate.
Okay, yeah. So the only way you'd probably really get one of those higher up numbers back then would be if you had a good reason. It's obviously not that high up, but Jágr wearing 68, he wore that in honor of the Prague Spring that occurred in Czechoslovakia in 1968, and in honor of his grandfather who died while in prison that same year. There was a whole bunch of Civil War and Cold War, post World War II stuff going on over in Czechoslovakia, which is now not even a country because of things like that. So that he had very very backstoried reasons for a hockey number that obviously it's a guy the skill of Jágr. Nobody's going to tell him what jersey to wear regardless. But if anybody comes to you with that story, you're not going to say, "Eat shit, you're going to be number 3." You're going to say, "Yeah, dude, wear the jersey. It's fine."
Well, and that's like Wayne Gretzky when he went to the Oilers. I think it was somebody was already wearing 9 at the time or something, and he wore 9 because he loved Gordie Howe. That was his guy, watching up that he looked up to. And
As
so he
was
said, you know
everyone's
what?
back then, pretty much.
If I can't wear 9, I'll just wear it twice and I'll go with 99. And then sure enough, he made that number so unique and so incredible that it's now retired league wide. Just because he wanted to pay homage to, Gordie Howe and be just like him, but he couldn't. So he's like, you know what? I'll just rock the number twice then. And now it's arguably probably the most iconic number in sports history. When you ask people, what's the most iconic jersey number ever? It's like 99,
I don't know.
Wayne Gretzky, like league wide, retired.
Personally, I don't know what number guys like Pele or Messi are, but maybe those ones would be up there. What did Jordan wear? 23?
It's the fact that like it's retired league wide now. Like nobody can wear it in the NHL again type of thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And for my money, Wayne Gretzky is the most decorated athlete of all time. You can't convince me otherwise. Prime Michael Jordan was insane. And like, if you want to say he's more athletically talented, fine, I'll hear that argument. But he was not above everybody else playing in the league at that time the same way Gretzky was. He doesn't hold records with such an insane gap over everyone in history the same way.
LeBron James, like a year and a half ago, just broke the record for most points all time in the NBA. Steph Curry, not too long ago, broke the record for most 3-pointers all time. Like Gretzky still holds the record for most points, goals, assists, everything. But and it looks like probably only goals is going to get broken
right now.
Right now, yeah. Like maybe
and it's
one
hard
day,
and it's hard to vision a world where it happens. But at the same time, Gretzky.
Maybe the assist, but I don't see anyone breaking that point.
Gretzky slowed down a bit later in his career. Not much. He was still producing at a pretty elite rate the whole way. But if scoring goes up and you get a good team around some of these guys, a guy like Bedard or something real early, they would have to have those insane seasons that Gretzky did.
Are you talking about like for breaking the points?
Yes.
No, that one's not getting touched, man.
I think it could.
McDavid hasn't even reached 1,000 yet, and he's 27.
Because he hasn't had those seasons that Gretzky had.
But that's the thing is because nobody's going to have the seasons Gretzky had.
He had multiple 190-plus seasons, and Lemieux's like the only other person to do it, and he did it once.
Yeah, like nobody is going to drop 190.
We just saw 2 guys hit. Actually, was it 3 guys hit 140?
Okay, but there's a big difference. That's a whole nother 50.
There's a whole difference, but 3 separate people hit it.
Yeah.
League scoring's going up. If you have one guy who is just like McDavid style in the league right now, just the unequivocal GOAT in the league right now, like it would be and it's also you'd have to have the same circumstances as Gretzky. You have to have that freaking Paul Coffey, Mark Messier. You have to have that dream team.
But that's the thing, you can't nowadays. You can't build a super team like that. But I guess you could. But then you ain't winning shit. Like you ain't winning cups. You
got to have that
building
elite
a team
top line.
To be like, hey, we're building a team so this one player specifically can break Gretzky's record, and everybody else can be like, well, what the fuck? Like, yeah. I could see some of Gretz. Like there will definitely be like the goals record. Obviously, is going to get broken by maybe even next year. Who knows? But yeah, the all-time points. I don't think anybody. No,
I think people have seen the scoring be lower for too long, and they don't realize that it could go back up.
But again, even if it goes up, it's not going to get to the point where guys are dropping 190 points.
Why not? In 10 years, we could see 15 guys a season hit 150. Like it depends on how the league evolves, right?
Yeah,
like if scoring goes genuinely to the 80s,
multiple guys hit 150. That's different from one guy getting up to 190. Like if you think about that, 190 across 82 games, that's averaging 2.3 points per game.
Yeah. I get the argument because there's a reason nobody else has hit 2,000 points, right? And Gretzky's at what, 27 something, over 3,000 including playoffs. But at the same time, I always find it a little hard to completely write something off when we've literally seen it. We literally saw Gretzky do it.
I think there's a lot of
I don't think it
guys
happens
that can.
anytime soon.
No, I think there's a lot of Gretzky's records that can get broken, but I mean, every time you look up like the most unbreakable records, that's always like number one. Like that's just, I think the only one that's more.
There's quite a few more unbreakable, but that's because the game has changed. I don't think it's
n-
because they're like legitimately harder.
No, the only one that I would say off the top of my head that's more like that's never gonna get broken aside from Gretzky's point one is like the like so many of the things that Tiger Woods did in his prime. Like the amount of like I think he went like it was something like 10 years or something without ever like missing a cut or something, an event or something. Like some of the numbers Tiger Woods had is crazy, but
Oh, I'm not even thinking other sports. I'm thinking like it's not even the most unbreakable in hockey. Like listen to this. The record for the most consecutive games played as a goalie, Glenn Hall, 502. We're never going to see a goalie play 502 games in a row. And that's just
yeah.
the game's just changed. Like it's not the goalie's fault. But that's just the game would have to be completely different. They'd have to
Yeah.
like
Well, no, because that's obviously one of the ones. Like,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's multiple ones like the Islanders for most consecutive playoff series wins. Like that one's never gonna be broken.
I think
Like
that one
there's
could be.
lot.
It would be pretty tough, but like
No, because I don't see a
there's
world where a team wins 4 in a row anymore and then goes back for a 5th year. Like that's especially now with like the cap and guys
it's
outperforming their
way
deals
harder. Yeah.
and losing guys like yeah.
Just,
I mean, I
we
think the
saw
close we're gonna get is like Tampa,
Tampa went to 3 straight
going
finals.
3 in a row, yeah. And you got to
But
think then they
like
got to do it another year, and then they got to do it the year after that. Like it's a lot. Like it maybe
oh
could,
yeah,
but
it's
I
a
think
lot.
that
Like
one's
that'll be
pretty easy.
very tough. I think eventually it gets broken. And I'm saying eventually because I think the NHL is going to be around for at least another 100 years. Like that could get
Oh
broken in
yeah,
2070. But I think eventually it might get broken. I won't even say probably because yeah, there's a lot more teams first of all, and the salary cap. There's a lot of things working against you that weren't back then.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, exactly, right. And
yeah,
that's kind of the
it's a lot
big
of these
part of
records
it.
like that one. The game's just changed. Glenn Hall, 502 consecutive goalie starts. Like I
Yeah,
don't
that
even
one's
know.
just absurd.
You would have to go to your coach, GM, president, and owner and be like, I want this record specifically, and then just be one of the best goalies in the world for
But then it's also
80,
that not getting
82
like
games a year. That's
staying
still like
healthy,
6 years. Yeah,
not getting
and
injured. Like
yeah, and and the record is also complete games. He was never
yeah,
pulled, so
yeah,
yeah, he'd also have to play every game, so like
yeah,
all the way through. So
yeah.
it's one of those things that just like the era for setting records like that is over.
Exactly, right? Like that's kind of where we're at. Um, but so that kind of wraps up everything we got for this episode. Again, kind of just a lighthearted, fun one. Just kind of, sticking on our routine. We did take um last week off early in the week. But now we're back again, back to 2 um
Yeah.
times a week. Braden, do you want to let everybody know kind of what our plan is looking like for the next, 8 or 9 weeks?
Yeah, so we're going to be doing a breakdown on the not only the offseason that they've just had, but also just the kind of current standing of all 32 NHL teams. We're going to be doing 2 per episode, and of course we got that 2 episodes a week coming back. So we're going to be doing 4 a week, and we're going to hopefully be able to get through all of them, every single team before the next season starts. It'll be around preseason time, mid to early September, hopefully. But yeah, we're just going to be going through all 32 teams and talking about, what they brought in, what they improved, what they could improve, what the team looks like now. For people who don't know about every other team, because, how could you possibly keep up with all 32 teams like fourth lines, right? We're going to be talking about like their top to bottom lineup and where we think they're going to finish in the season, and or at least what they want to finish in the season, and just do a bit of a deep dive slowly over the entire league, because there's some teams that we talk about a decent bit. We talk about the Flames a good bit, obviously Tampa and San Jose, but there's some teams that never get talked about, kind of like the Leafs, right? Like,
well, and rightfully so. Fuck the Leafs. No, but and that's part of it, right? Is so, obviously for you listeners, you're gonna kind of be excited for when we get to your team and kind of do a deep dive on your team, but also gives you the chance throughout the weeks to kind of tune in and hear about these other teams and kind of see where every team is at and kind of what each team is looking like going into the season, and maybe you kind of familiarize yourself a bit more with so when you see Joe Blow drop a 4-goal game or something, you're like, oh shit, yeah, I remember hearing about him. He was the third liner for whoever or whatever. And so it just kind of gives us a chance to kind of look over every team going into the season, kind of familiarize ourselves a bit better with where every team's at, as well as you guys. But that will be starting a week from today, because on Friday we will be finishing up off what we did last week, and we will be going through the top 20 centers and goalies since 2010. So you got that to look forward to on Friday. And then this time next week, when you're hearing this, we will be coming out with, I don't know, because we're not doing it alphabetically. We're going to kind of chat and, we're just going to be like, all right, I'm picking this team for this one. And then you're going to be like, hey, I'm picking this team. And then so you're going to get 2 random teams. You're not going to know what teams are coming. It's just going to be like, boom.
Do you want to pick the first one live? Do you have any teams in mind that you want to just call your shot right now?
I'll give you the first overall pick for next week.
Oh, okay.
So this is the only episode where people are gonna they're gonna know what to expect for the next one, or maybe at the end of each episode, maybe then we just we do a live draft like this and pick. Well, I don't know, but yeah, I'll give you the first pick here for next week. What team do you want to provide a breakdown on?
I haven't really thought too much about too many of the teams I want to, but one of the first ones that came to mind, and I've got a decent bit to say about them, so I'm going to go with the Nashville Predators.
The Nashville Predators. Okay. Yeah, that's actually one that you should do. That's one you should do. I'm okay with that. I'm also going to go with the Central team.
I thought you were going to say I'm also going with the Predators, and I was like, okay, that's not how it works.
No, fuck it. Yeah, I'm doing the Preds. What are you going to do? No,
Norfolk Admirals.
I am going to go with another Central team. I'm going to go with the Winnipeg Jets.
Ooh, nice.
That's what I'm going with for next week. So next week from today, you will have the full breakdown of both the Nashville Predators and the Winnipeg Jets.
You'll all learn how to be Hellebuck truthers.
Yep. Or UC Saros. Or UC Saros, because he's sticking around long term with the Preds. But that does wrap up everything we have for this episode. Again, we do want to thank all of you who have tuned in and continue to tune in and support us and listen to us. If you want to continue and join in on any conversations, if there's any teams you want us to accelerate and speed up and maybe talk about earlier, you can let us know on any of our socials. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. The TikTok has been blowing up lately over the last couple of days, so feel free to join in on what's going on over there. Roast us, leave us any nice comments. We don't expect you to, but if you want to, awesome. And again, if there's a team, if you're a Chicago fan and you're like, hey, talk about my dumpster fire of a team next week, we will.
We're just kind of that up. We're not doing it alphabetical. I'm sure Anaheim Ducks fans are sick of going first for everything. So we're just jumping, like you just saw. We're just jumping around the league, grabbing teams. We'll be doing them whenever. I'm sure at some point, maybe it'll be the last end of the season. Probably do Tampa, San Jose, but other than that,
maybe we'll throw a curveball somewhere. Maybe I'll just fucking pick Tampa one day and be like, boom, nuts on the table. This is what we're doing. No, I'm just kidding. Well, maybe
I'm doing kind of San Jose this week, and their lineup's dumb, and their players are stupid, and their fans are stupid.
See, but everything you literally just said is accurate, though. Like, you are right. It sucks. It is awful. No, it's getting better, but I am living in hell right now.
Classic. Hey, but you can do it with the first overall pick.
Damn straight I can. But so that wraps up everything we have for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for Friday because, again, centerman and goalies probably the two hardest lists to put together, I think, because there's so many good ones, and there's going to be a lot of controversial picks in there.
I'm glad I got to do goalies because I did not really want to. I didn't want to have to do center because I feel like
so fucking many.
There's
like, so many.
I feel like the top 10 is going to be all like Hall of Fame bound players. Like you could even maybe, I don't even know. Like I haven't looked at them. You might be saying that for the top 20. Like you might be leaving out a guy who has a bid. Like
no, the top 20 are all going to be Hall of Famers. Like I've
already
probably
not all of them, but there might be some guys that.
No, when you start hearing some of the
names,
of a journeyman. Like I've kind of done a little bit of like not a lot, but a little bit of research on some of them, and I'm sitting there looking. I'm like, holy shit! Like, yeah, these are all like Hall of Fame guys.
Yeah,
it's a tough list to make.
Yeah, and goalies don't have the longevity, so it might be a bit weird trying to figure that out as well. But that'll come on Friday. Yes, it will, little buddy. Once again, thank you to everybody for listening, and we will see you guys later this week.